Ancient texts no one can read, symbols no one can explain, and codes that have resisted every attempt to decipher them. Some of these mysteries have puzzled historians for centuries. Others may finally be starting to crack open, but even now, no one can say for certain what these messages truly mean. My friends, you're going to like this one. In 1912, a rare book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich purchased a strange medieval manuscript from a Jesuit college in Italy. At first glance, the book looked ancient, but ordinary enough pages of handwritten text, accompanied by illustrations of plants, stars, diagrams, and human figures. But there was one problem: no one could read it, and this is where the mystery begins. The manuscript was written in a completely unknown script, now referred to as Voynichese. The symbols resemble language, repeating in recognisable patterns with consistent spacing and structure. Statistical analysis shows that the text behaves in some ways like a real written language. Certain words repeat frequently. Sentence structures appear organised. Some symbols predictably follow others. And yet it also behaves unlike any known language on Earth. That contradiction has puzzled historians, cryptographers, and linguists for more than a century. Some researchers believe the manuscript is written in a lost or artificial language. Others think it may be an elaborate cipher designed to conceal information. And a few argue the entire thing could be an elaborate medieval hoax, carefully constructed nonsense meant to imitate meaningful text. But if it is meaningless, it's astonishingly convincing. And this is where things start to get a little strange. Over the decades, some of the world's best codebreakers have attempted to decipher the manuscript, including experts who worked on military cryptography during both world wars. None succeeded. Even modern computers have struggled to crack its structure. The illustrations only deepen the mystery. Some pages contain bizarre plant drawings unlike any known species. Others depict astronomical charts, bathing women connected by strange tubes, or circular diagrams that resemble alchemical or astrological systems. The manuscript feels organised, as though it was created for a specific purpose, but no one can determine exactly what that purpose was. And recently a new theory emerged. A researcher named Michael Greshko developed what he calls the Naibbe cipher, an encoding system designed to recreate some of the manuscript's unusual linguistic behaviour. His method uses random chunking and multiple substitution systems to transform ordinary language into something resembling Voynichese. When tested, the cipher reproduced several strange statistical properties found within the manuscript, but even this breakthrough came with a major limitation. Greshko himself admits the Naibbe cipher does not solve the Voynich manuscript. It merely demonstrates that a medieval encoding method could potentially create text with similar characteristics. In other words, researchers may finally be understanding how the text was created without understanding what it says, and that leaves the central mystery untouched, because after hundreds of years, the Voynich manuscript still remains unreadable. And in another part of the world, in 1908, archaeologists excavating the ancient Minoan palace of Phaistos on the island of Crete uncovered one of archaeology's strangest artefacts. A small clay disc. At first, it didn't seem extraordinary, but as researchers examined it more closely, they realised they were looking at something completely unique. And this is where discovery turns to mystery. The disc is covered on both sides with a spiral of carefully stamped symbols, unlike any known writing system. Human figures, animals, tools, geometric shapes. 45 distinct symbols, arranged in a precise sequence, moving inward toward the centre. No one knows exactly what language it represents. No one knows who created it. And no one has ever found another artifact like it. That last detail is critical, because most ancient languages are eventually deciphered by comparing multiple examples of writing. But the Phaistos Disc exists almost entirely alone. Without additional text for comparison, researchers lack the context normally required to decode ancient scripts. And yet, people continue trying. Some scholars believe the symbols are connected to Linear A, the still undeciphered writing system of the Minoan civilization. Others see similarities to Anatolian hieroglyphs or early Mediterranean languages, but no theory has ever achieved universal acceptance. And this is where things become even more interesting. In 2024, linguist Dr. Gareth Owens claimed he may have deciphered as much as 99% of the disc's meaning. According to Owens, the artifact appears to contain a religious hymn dedicated to a mother goddess associated with Astarte, an ancient deity connected to love, fertility, and war. Owens argues that by applying vocal sounds from Linear B, a later Greek writing system, combined with comparative linguistics, parts of the text begin to form recognisable patterns. But there's an important distinction. Reading symbols does not necessarily mean understanding them, and that's the challenge facing researchers. Because while Owens' theory is fascinating, many experts remain cautious. The Phaistos Disc is still too isolated, too unique, and too poorly understood for any single interpretation to fully solve the mystery. There are still enormous unanswered questions. Was the disc a prayer, a ritual object, a message, or something entirely different? Some researchers have even questioned whether the disc is authentic at all, though most scholars believe it is genuine. And this is where the mystery holds. Because despite more than a century of study, the Phaistos Disc continues to resist complete explanation. It remains one of archaeology's most famous unsolved puzzles, not because researchers haven't tried, but because the artifact itself offers so little certainty. A single object, a vanished civilization, and a message no one can confidently read. Which brings us to another indecipherable mystery. Except this isn't a strange book or a relic in a far-off land. On the grounds of Shugborough Hall in Staffordshire, England, a stone monument stands quietly among the landscape. At first glance it appears elegant, but unremarkable. A classical sculpture inspired by the famous painting, The Shepherds of Arcadia. But beneath the artwork sits a strange sequence of letters that has baffled visitors for centuries. O, U, O, S, V, A, V, V, and beneath that D, M. And this is where the mystery begins. The monument was commissioned sometime during the 18th century by Thomas Anson, a wealthy English landowner fascinated by philosophy, symbolism, and classical art. The sculpture itself is already unusual. A mirrored version of Nicolas Poussin's famous painting showing shepherds gathered around a tomb marked with the phrase "Et in Arcadia ego," roughly translated, "Even in paradise death exists." That alone gives the monument an eerie tone, but it's the inscription beneath the sculpture that transformed it into one of England's most enduring mysteries. Unlike typical inscriptions of the time, the letters appear completely cryptic. No punctuation, no clear language, no obvious meaning. And despite centuries of analysis, no interpretation has ever been universally accepted. And people have tried. Historians, cryptographers, scholars, even codebreakers connected to Britain's famous Bletchley Park reportedly examined the inscription without producing a definitive solution. Over time, theories exploded across the internet, and academic circles alike. Some believe the code contains a hidden religious message or memorial dedication. Others claim it points towards secret societies, Masonic symbolism, or even the Holy Grail itself. One theory suggests the inscription may simply be a private message meant only for a small circle of people to understand. And strangely, all of those theories remain possible, because with only 10 letters to work from, there simply isn't enough context to solve the puzzle with certainty. Adding to the mystery are the monument's symbolic details. Carved hands appear to point towards specific letters. Faces stare outward from the sculpture with unreadable expressions. The mirrored artwork itself suggests themes of duality, hidden meaning, and mortality. Nothing about the monument feels accidental, and this is what makes the Shugborough Inscription so fascinating. Unlike many ancient mysteries, this one may not involve a lost civilization or forgotten language. The answer could be surprisingly simple, or impossibly complex. And after centuries of investigation, no one knows which is true. Ancient mysteries often survive because evidence disappears over time. Languages die, cultures collapse, meanings fade, but sometimes the mystery survives because the message itself was never meant to be understood easily. The Voynich Manuscript, the Phaistos Disc, the Shugborough Inscription, 3 puzzles separated by centuries, connected by one unsettling truth. Human beings are still leaving behind messages we cannot fully explain, and somewhere hidden inside symbols, codes, and forgotten languages, the answers may already exist. We just don't know how to read them yet.